Today we follow the red wolves of North America, a rare predator fighting to survive as human expansion shrinks and fragments the habitat they depend on.
Red wolves live in landscapes where water, forest, and open ground meet, and where territory is increasingly interrupted by people. The edge is both shelter and danger, because edges are where animals meet roads, fences, and human activity. A red wolf's coat blends perfectly with warm grasses and forest shadows, designed for stealth in a patchwork world. In human-shaped habitats, caution becomes a daily survival skill, because danger can arrive without warning. Red wolves travel quietly, conserving energy and avoiding exposure in open areas. Tracks tell a story of movement, and movement is harder when the land is split into smaller pieces. As people fill the daylight hours, many predators shift more movement into the night. A road can function like a wall, dividing territory and forcing risky crossings for food and mates. Crossing is done with speed and caution, because timing can mean the difference between life and loss. Fences redirect movement, narrowing safe corridors and concentrating animals into predictable routes. Artificial light changes behavior, pushing wildlife to stay hidden and move farther from people. Pack connection is survival, because cooperation helps locate food and defend territory.
A howl is a message across distance, keeping the pack connected in a landscape full of barriers.
In fragmented habitat, hunting often shifts towards smaller, more available prey that fits the new landscape. Wetlands can provide quiet routes away from roads, but they also slow movement and increase effort.
Cover is protection, especially in places where human activity peaks during daylight.
From above, fragmentation becomes obvious. Safe habitat is broken into islands, separated by human use.
Corridors are lifelines, allowing wolves to move between areas without crossing open, risky spaces. In human landscapes, the safest choice is often to disappear, rather than to push forward.
Rain can erase scent trails, forcing wolves to rely more on sight, hearing, and memory of their routes.
Pack coordination improves success, especially when habitat changes make food less predictable.
Its den sites must be hidden and quiet, because disturbance can threaten an entire season of pups. When raising pups, adults become even more cautious, because risk is shared by the whole pack.
Edges can provide prey, but edges also bring the wolf closer to human activity and conflict.
Avoiding open ground reduces exposure, even if it makes the route longer and harder. Human machinery expands the active hours of the landscape, shrinking the quiet time wildlife depends on.
Waterways can act like natural highways, guiding movement through cover.
In shrinking habitat, competition rises, and every pack must fight for space without wasting energy. Dawn is patrol time, checking boundaries and reading what changed overnight. Territory is communicated quietly, with signals that reduce the need for constant conflict.
Heat and humidity increase energy costs, so wolves choose shade and cool mountains to move.
Seasonal flooding changes routes, forcing packs to adapt to shifting ground conditions. A new clearing can remove cover overnight, turning a safe corridor into an exposed gap. Packs regroup often because staying connected improves survival and reduces risky solo movement. In fragmented land, movement creates a map, and the safest map is often narrow and hidden. Avoidance is a key strategy, because conflict zones can be deadly even when no one intends harm. Isolation makes everything harder, and small populations face the added pressure of finding mates and safe territory. Where corridors remain intact, wolves gain room to breathe, hunt, and raise young with less pressure.
Police, I am Arthur. At the midpoint, at the main point, the main threat is fragmentation. When habitat is split, fields and...
Night corridors reduce human contact, but they also compress movement into fewer safe hours. Safe crossings like underpasses can reduce risk, making a divided landscape slightly more connected. Small signals like crossings remind us that wildlife is still here, trying to move through our world.
Many sightings are brief because red wolves are cautious and avoid contact whenever possible.
During pup season, disturbance can have outsized impact because a single failed den affects the entire population.
When habitat shrinks, food distribution changes, and wolves must work harder for the same reward. Communication is subtle. Posture, scent, and sound keep a pack organized without wasting energy. Coexistence depends on distance, tolerance, and keeping enough habitat connected for wildlife to function. In small populations, each loss matters more because recovery takes time and opportunities are limited. Restoration and protected corridors can rebuild the pathways wildlife needs to move and survive. A safe crossing is a small victory because it keeps the landscape connected without increasing risk. The marsh edge remains a resource-rich zone, but it is shrinking where development pushes outward. Quiet zones reduce stress, allowing wolves to rest, breed, and hunt more effectively. This is a million-view frame because it shows the red wolf as a living symbol of wildness in a changing landscape. This angle holds attention because it feels intimate while staying respectful, showing alert intelligence without intrusion.
Night mist shots perform because they turn habitat into atmosphere, and atmosphere carries emotion without exaggeration.
Connectivity is survival because corridors allow movement, breeding, and access to food without constant road risk.
Smaller territory means more encounters, fewer resources, and less room for mistakes.
Keeping distance protects the animals and keeps behavior authentic, which makes the story more honest.
At dusk, wolves return to cover, using the safest hours to move through a crowded landscape.
Red wolves are shy by strategy because avoiding humans is one of the strongest survival advantages they have.
In fragmented habitat, even moving between feeding areas becomes a calculated risk.
Connectivity keeps populations alive because it supports breeding, dispersal, and stable territories.
Pups need quiet because disturbance can erase the future in one season.
Night hides the wolves, but it cannot expand the habitat they need. It only helps them avoid conflict.
Every sunrise resets the challenge. Find food, stay safe, and keep the pack connected.
Sometimes survival depends on one corridor staying open, because alternatives are too risky.
Expansion can feel far away, but it changes the boundaries that wildlife cannot negotiate with.
The red wolf survives by moving efficiently, using intelligence more than force.
A rare direct look is the hook, because it reminds viewers this animal still exists, but only barely.
For red wolves, space is survival, and shrinking space forces more risk into every hour.
Coexistence requires quiet boundaries, keeping corridors intact and reducing conflict where worlds overlap. Time matters, because small populations recover slowly, even when conditions improve.
This shot performs because it feels like a mystery, a rare predator passing through a world that barely has room left. Reflections hold attention, and they highlight how fragile the remaining habitat can be.
Light through pines makes the forest feel sacred, and it frames the wolf as part of an ecosystem worth protecting. Respectful distance keeps the story honest, because the goal is understanding, not intrusion. A connected corridor is hope in physical form, because it gives wildlife room to move and live. Red wolves survive through caution, teamwork, and hidden roots, but shrinking habitat makes every part of life harder.